What's going on, everybody? This is the Roaming Prepper channel. I'm your host, Pete, and thank you once again for joining me. In light of the way things are going, so many strange situations and so many variables, it can be kind of overwhelming. And I decided it might behoove me, and maybe all of us, to look back at history and look back at what happened the last time we had a major economic downturn with all the subsequent issues. And the last one that really happened, the big one, was the Great Depression, which we all know about. So what lessons can we learn from looking at history? I'll be right back, and let's talk about that. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining me again today. As always, I try to premiere these videos. Sometimes I don't make my own premiere because of my work schedule, so feel free to ask any questions I don't address in the premiere in the comments below the video. If you want to share the video with other folks, that's always appreciated. And don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave the vid. Or don't like. Some people give me a thumbs down. That's fine too. In any case, what can we learn? What happened in the past that we can learn from now? So let's go to the 1930s, right? When the Great Depression happened on what they call Black Tuesday, a lot of folks didn't realize, or don't realize today, that prior to that, they had the Roaring 20s, which was 10 plus years of very easy money, easy loans, a lot of largesse going around, a lot of people spending money on things they really didn't need, getting in debt, speculation. They were investing in things that were very high risk, and it was like the Wild West. Nobody knew what they were doing. At the same time, during the 20s, they had just come out of what was the pandemic of that day, the Spanish flu, which ironically I think started in Kansas, but also the World War I had just ended. And when World War I ended, it set the precipice for both the Great Depression and World War II, because World War I ended a lot of the old monarchies, right? The Tsar was toppled, the old German government was toppled. There were a lot of changes in Europe that had repercussions up until today, to be quite honest with you. So there was political instability, a recent war had come to an end, there was an age of a lot of easy and free money, reckless investing. Oh, and then to boot, the US Midwest, the breadbasket, right, where all the crops are planted in the US, had experienced unheard of heat and drought. And this was before HARP. Heat and drought. Does this sound familiar? This is probably a natural occurrence. Now, I hadn't checked if there was a La Nina or El Nino. I don't know what the solar cycle was at that time, but for whatever reason, much like other times in history, there was drought. There were the Dust Bowl, many of us read about in the history books, and there were so many variables that all happened at one time. And hence, when the Great Depression hit, it was really bad for everyone. Now that I've given you some historical context, what did they do? Now, you can go on and on. I could do a 1-hour video on this stuff, but let's do some highlights. Among the things, thanks to World War I, a lot of people were already planting extra vegetables in their garden. Even people in the suburbs, people in the city, they had urban gardens, victory gardens, or some variation thereof. So the people back then knew enough to actually grow their own crops. Now, they couldn't grow everything inside the city, but they could grow enough where it took some of the pain out of buying things when inflation hit and when the Great Depression hit. Another thing folks were doing was repurposing old things. Now, this goes hand in hand with the concept of defensive prepping, which I've mentioned in other videos. Essentially, maximize what you have. Before you throw it out or give it away, see if you can find another use for it, because that's money you're not spending. that you can repurpose for your own use. Now, in the worst case, if you do trade it or sell it, you either get cash or something in exchange. That's not a bad go-to. And at the very end of everything, you can still donate it to charity and help your fellow person. That's not a bad thing either. But that was something a lot of folks did. Recycling and repurposing things. Specifically, there were even stories about people washing their tinfoil, their aluminum foil. Obviously washing out mason jars, not throwing away containers that products came in because you could wash it and maybe repurpose it. Now remember, that was in the day of glass and metal containers. Now we have plastics, they have BPAs and other things in the plastic, but you can still use them for storage of some type if it's an appropriate container. So you guys are kind of tracking what I'm saying. Another thing was clothing repair. I've done that video where, you know, save $100 by repairing your own zipper. You go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's, you find the zipper you need, install it, and you don't have to spend $50, $100 on a new jacket because you just fixed what you already had. Same for buttons, same for blue jeans. Being able to repair that which you have will extend the life of your money. Another thing that I was reading about that people were doing was finding other ways to entertain themselves. Right now, a lot of people, we like going to the theater, we like going out to eat. It's freaking expensive, guys, to catch a movie for 2 adults, and let's say we do the early afternoon matinee. It's still $10, $20 a ticket. So $10 a ticket, right? There's $20. You know your popcorn's another 10. There's 30. Your sodas are going to be 10 to 12. There's 40. And maybe you get some M&Ms. You know, pretty much you spent $50 to watch a movie, or you can watch one at home. Or you can read a book. Or you can play a board game. And by the way, Monopoly came out during the Great Depression. And if you read the Monopoly instructions, one of the things, which is a very snarky rule, is that the bank is never out of money. It simply prints its own and creates IOUs. Does that sound familiar? Somebody who made that game knew exactly what he was talking about, and he probably knew what happened back then. I do need to go into the history of the Monopoly game, but I believe it was a banker or an investor who came up with it. But anyway, I digress. Point being, there are a lot of ways to do things you can do with your family, with your kids. Another thing they talked about was potluck dinners. Believe it or not, the churches and social groups were creating potlucks where everybody brought their own stew. It wasn't just to share food. It was a way to network and speak to like-minded people who are willing to make effort to form a community. There's no reason you can't do things like that now. You could do it through your church. You could do it through your hunting group, whatever group you have. If you can find people who think like you, and they don't necessarily have to wear a full tinfoil hat. They're just pragmatic. They see what's going on and say, hey, it's expensive. Maybe we can come together. The relationships you can form at times like these can be invaluable to get you and the other people through the hard times. Most importantly, one of the things a lot of the articles I've been reading said was there was a time for reflection and faith. A lot of people went to the church. A lot of people sat with their neighbors and had conversations, traded information. This is a great time to find your own community and to make peace with what's going on. Instead of freaking out over every article, understand what's the context and what can it do to help me. There's so many things that I'm learning just reading up on this. It's absolutely blowing my mind, and I don't think I'm doing half the stuff I've read justice with this relatively short video on the topic. However, just think, we got through this before, and unfortunately it led to World War II, which is a whole nother geopolitical boondoggle that we'll have to cover another time. But every time there's been a collapse, even the Dark Ages led to the Renaissance. Right? The Great Depression led to World War II, but then led to Pax Americana, which, led to the greatest industrial growth in history. Every time there's been a collapse, there has always been a revival of some point. Now, the whole trick is to figure out what we need to do to get through the hard times with us and our loved ones and our sanity and make it to the other side so we can catch the upswing. Okay? It's scary times now, but there could be exciting times later, and that's what I want folks to focus on. And you know what? Don't beat yourself up if you're just tired. There's nothing wrong with being tired, depressed, or pissed off every now and then. Just don't wallow there for too long. get up the next morning, put on a clean shirt, put on your shoes, and go for a walk. Get out of the house. Whatever you do, let's not repeat the mistakes we made during the COVID and just hide ourselves away. Screw that. Let's go out and make some noise. You don't have to burn anything down, by the way, but you definitely can go out there, talk to people, learn stuff, and find people you can work with. In any case, I hope that was a useful little bit of information. As I read more, I will make a point of trying to share more. I'm just kind of summarizing it because it's floating around my head and I really wanted to share this with you. Until next time, guys, God bless, Godspeed. I will see you on the next video, and y'all be careful out there and help each other out. Now's a great time to talk to people and learn new stuff. Take care.